Lesson 4.3 is Pythagorean theorem and the distance formula. It says graph a right triangle with the 2 points forming the hypotenuse. Using the sides, find the distance between the 2 points. So see, they've graphed 7, 6 for us and -2, -6 for us. What I want to do is make this into a right triangle. So I'm going to extend this leg to go up until I'm at the same height as this point and then go out. So my right angle would be right here in this corner, making a right triangle. These are your legs that form the 90. So see how they meet and form the 90? Doesn't matter which one you call which, but they want the distances here. So -2 is where this one's at. And then to 7, that should be 7, 8, 9 for one of the legs. And then this one goes all the way from -6, that'd be a distance of 6, plus another 6 would be 12. Again, you could switch those if you wanted. Pythagorean theorem is named after a guy named Pythagoras, and he discovered this theorem so that you could find a missing side of a right triangle. And it goes a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A and b have to be the legs. C has to be the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is always across from the 90, meaning if I'm standing here in this corner and I shoot a bow and arrow, that is my hypotenuse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in my values for my legs. Again, doesn't matter the order. I'm going to do 12 gets squared plus 9 gets squared. That's going to equal my hypotenuse, c squared. On your calculator, zoom out just a little bit. You would put in 12 and then your squared button is right here. See the x getting squared? That is 144. 9 squared means 9 times 9, or 9 squared is 81. C squared. Then you want to add these two together. So 81 plus 144 is 225. Now to solve an equation with something being squared, we want to undo that. So the opposite of squaring is square rooting. That'll make that and that cancel to leave you with c. To do that on your calculator, you have to hit the second button, which is the top left button, and then that squared button again, because above that you see a square root. So to do anything above a button, you have to hit second first. Square root of 225 is 15, meaning that 15 times 15 makes 225. So what I just found is actually the hypotenuse. So this length is 15. It's a 9, 12, 15 right triangle. Okay? So one more problem we're going to do without a picture. And I also want to show you the distance formula, because when you don't have a picture, it's much easier just plug in this distance formula. And this is something we'll use a lot throughout geometry. So it's d equals, it's one big square root. Then it's x sub 1 minus x sub 2, so your x1 minus your x2, that quantity gets squared. And then there's plus y sub 1 minus y sub 2, quantity squared. That really comes from Pythagorean theorem, because in the problem we did, we could have taken 7 minus -2, and minus a negative turns into plus a positive. 7 plus 2 is 9. So what that finds is that this leg was 9. Square that gets 81. And then plus, so there's your a squared plus your b squared would be your 6 minus a -6, which again, double negatives turn into a positive. That's 12. Gets squared. That's 144. So that right there was exactly what we had here, just in a different order. Then we want to add those together, which gets the 225, and then the last thing we do is we square root. So all of this gets put under a square root. So it looks complicated when you see it like this, but it's really not, especially when you just plug stuff in. Okay, so let's try it. We've got big square root x1 and x2. So it goes 1, and the order of this really doesn't matter. If you want to do -8 minus 1 is fine too, because squaring it will make it become positive no matter what. So we'll have 1 minus a negative squared plus -6 minus -4 squared. Double negatives turn into positive. 1 plus 8 is 9 squared. -6 plus 4 is -2 squared. You want to put parentheses around a negative still. 9 squared is 81. -2 squared is +4, because -2 times a -2 makes a +4. And then that adds to make 85. So what we just found is that one leg is a distance of 9. Another one's really a distance of 2. That's your A and your B. You're squaring A squared and B squared, and then you're going to have to add those together. And then since it's C squared equals that, you have to square root it. It says to the nearest tenth, so we want to hit our second and then our x squared button again to get the square root. 85, hit enter. And it said round to the nearest tenth, which is the 2. Look one digit after, it's just a 1. It doesn't matter about the 9. 1 does not make the 2 round up. It has to be a 5 or bigger, so it's 9.2. So what we just found is that we have a right triangle somehow where one of the legs we said was 9, one of them was 2, and we found this to be 9.2.